Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Ask SCW back for another episode answering your questions in the wrestling community. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You have all the things coming up on your screen for you right now. Leave the hashtag AskSCW. I will answer in the next video. You can also drop a comment here on YouTube in the comment section. Always, if you leave the hashtag, I know to answer it in the next video. This will be the last Ask SCW though until after WrestleMania. We'll not be doing one next weekend because WrestleMania, of course, is Saturday and Sunday next week. Just to let you know though, WrestleMania predictions will be coming up for you. They'll be published on Tuesday. Probably will record them before. We published on Tuesday, and we'll also have a retro show of WrestleMania 15 next week. That will be George and myself, which will be posting for you on Thursday. So that's the two things to look out for on the channel next week. And Ask SCW will be back straight after WrestleMania for all the fallout. You get sort of my review take on it, ask your questions. We can talk retro stuff as well. Whatever you want, ask the questions. I'll answer it for the next Ask SCW. But you're here for this episode, and we're already a minute into the video, so let's get on with the first question this week. And it comes from Straight Edge Josh, who's asking who's replacing Roman. Of course, Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. It's the burning question. Shout out to Josh Marriott, by the way. Does a YouTube channel himself. He's actually doubled his subscribers actually in this calendar year alone. So fair play to you for doing that. He does a lot of sort of like Titantron type videos of your favourite superstars in wrestling. So go and check it out. It's good fun. I do recommend the channel to go and look at it. But of course, asking the question about Roman Reigns, who will be the replacement. There could be a number of potentials really in this. I mean, it all comes down to Roman Reigns apparently has pulled out of WrestleMania. Apparently that is meant to be factual news now across all the dirt sheets. A number of other superstars are meant to be missing from WrestleMania as well. Some have been speculated, which are rumoured potentially to be true. Some are rumours out there which are false. So we probably won't fully know till next weekend what is true and what is fully not, unless full spoilers come out within the week, which I'm going to do my absolute best to try and avoid. I'm not really a fan of spoilers. I think it takes away the fun from the show. So if I'm going to watch a pre-taped WrestleMania, I need to be sure to myself that I'm going to go and enjoy something that is not going to be spoiled for me beforehand. But going into this, I haven't seen spoilers if there has anyone that is due to replace Bill Goldberg. But for me, I did a post on Twitter yesterday seeing people's opinions of what they thought were the best options. An option I really liked was the winner of John Cena and Bray Wyatt, The Fiend. I mean, that could be on, for example, night 1, and that could go to night 2, where the winner would challenge. For that, I've seen Triple Threat as an option. Names I've seen thrown out there, Braun Strowman is one of them. I've seen Kofi Kingston, Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, and Triple H. And I think those, I've seen a lot more names thrown, by the way. Samoa Joe was another one that was very popular. But I do think when you look at this, you have to look from a standpoint that the superstar has to be someone on SmackDown, so that rules out a lot of the Raw guys. NXT guys could be called up for the moment, but would they be successful if they were called into the situation? For Matt Riddle, for example, he didn't have a great showing in the Royal Rumble, and I don't think he would be given the win to come in straight and win the WWE Championship. Keith Lee is someone that could be slightly different, but I'm not so sure if that would be the case. If I was to give you my personal one, I think that makes the most sense. Someone on the SmackDown roster, someone that is not involved in a WrestleMania match. I mean, Kofi Kingston is, but rumours are that he's now not. But one for sure that isn't is Braun Strowman. So he is going to be my prediction of who will be that person that will replace Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And it goes on now for the Hard Hitting Sports podcast, depending on when you give your video, which of course is now, which was after SmackDown. He also asked who will challenge Goldberg, and of course I've said there Braun Strowman would be my choice because, as I said, that I think he is the best option out there of the superstars available. But Andrade and the Miz are out of WrestleMania. What will happen next? Well, those are two of the other names there clearly that are out of WrestleMania. And it just makes you wonder, so what is WWE going to do? Are they just going to simply cancel the matches they're in, or they're going to shuffle the deck? Now, I must admit, I said I don't like spoilers, but I couldn't help myself. When I saw it was a throwaway tag team match Andrade was involved in, I don't see the match as overly important. I see that the replacement was named. I went and checked it out because it wasn't important information, in my opinion, for that match. And I see that it's NXT's Austin Theory who's going to be taking that role. So hopefully I've not spoiled that for anybody. If I have, I do apologise, especially if you didn't want to know that. But yeah, I mean, for me, I think that makes sense. With The Miz, for example, not being involved, they could do something with John Morrison still at WrestleMania, perhaps against, maybe, I don't know, a triple threat match with one of the Usos, one of the New Day. It was supposed to be a ladder match, so it would be interesting if they would try and find a dynamic to do that. But you can't really involve the tag team championships if both superstars are not involved. So, like I say, it depends how many people are missing from WrestleMania. If there is more out there, how they're going to shuffle the deck. They're clearly going to make changes to the card in some formats to fit the show. The show, in their opinion, must go on. So I think that's what they'll do. They'll find ways to put superstars in there and still give us a show. The only sad part is that, of course, we've had all of this time where we've built to WrestleMania. You can argue some of the matches have not been built together very well, and at the last minute they've not gone ahead. It just goes to show that when we were all doing these videos and predictions weeks and weeks ago, saying that this should be postponed, it's proving in hindsight that that was the correct call, that we didn't necessarily have to have WrestleMania this next week. It to me doesn't add up, doesn't make sense. So yeah, I mean, it's disappointing. We're not going to have it in front of a crowd, but I've give a lot of my feelings on this on a previous video. If anyone hasn't seen it, please go and check it out. Why I thought WrestleMania should be postponed. It's not been postponed. I mean, like we say, the recordings have already happened for WrestleMania. I believe the recordings were on Wednesday and Thursday. If there's anything that needed to be recorded, hopefully it wasn't featured on SmackDown last night, but hopefully it will have something on SmackDown this week. So at least we go into WrestleMania knowing what the changes are. I think that would be the thing that would be nicest and making most sense here going forward. We're going to have a WrestleMania. We're going to have a show. My feeling is let's make the best of it. Let's try and enjoy whatever's been given to us here by WWE, and let's hope, I mean, that for health and safety, for everyone's sakes, because that's the thing that's most important here. And I think a lot of support has to be given to Roman Reigns for not taking the risk here. You know, a superstar's health is first and foremost. Fans want the best for all the fans. I mean, we want the best for all the wrestlers out there. We don't want to see, you know, anyone, you know, suffer from what's going on at the minute. So yeah, let's hope that this isn't too bad and that they get away with this. Next question comes from Facebook, and a good friend George Jones, of course, involved with us on the SCW Rewind. If you haven't checked it out already, of course, Nitro, we've got 1 and 2, episodes 1 and 2 reviewed, and then we've got episodes 3 and 4 reviewed as well. So go and check them out on the channel right now. He asks, how would you book Reigns' replacement? Which is interesting, of course, not just who would it be, but how would I book it? And also, what would have been your WrestleMania card providing things were normal? Interesting question there. Well, first off, I mean, to book the Roman Reigns replacement, I really like the idea of whoever or whatever there being some form of #1 contender match. Because, I mean, if you have, I mean, John Cena and The Fiend, for example, you know, vying for the spot, that would make sense from night 1 to night 2, as well as that you could also have where you have a situation where, let's say it's Braun Strowman, Kofi Kingston, Big E, a couple of other superstars on a SmackDown brand that don't have anything to do. Let's take Cesaro, Shinsuke Nakamura. We can have some sort of six-pack challenge. Now, it may seem straightforward of who could be in that position at WrestleMania that would perhaps take the win and go into the match, but at least you'd have something where the superstar earns it. If a superstar just turns up through the curtain and they just automatically given a title match, I mean, I know Roman Reigns was given that and perhaps wasn't the best build for that for them on the road to WrestleMania, but here we have an opportunity to rectify that, and we have a chance for someone to become a genuine #1 contender on that night, and then they get to challenge for the belt either later in the night or the next night. Because, I mean, New Japan Pro Wrestling did that with their Wrestle Kingdom this year. There are 2 nights on their Wrestle Kingdom. Night 1 actually impacted what happened on night 2, so you had to watch both nights, and then it gave you a purpose. Otherwise, technically, don't you just have 2 different wrestling shows going on, but just different superstars and different matches? What's to say that one is WrestleMania and the other isn't? Why can't one be NXT TakeOver Tampa with the main roster, arguably the main roster, and the next night be WrestleMania? Doesn't make sense to me. You might as well have something that connects the 2 nights. So for me, that is what I would do. And I would say, actually, one thing that's key while we're in this conversation here is that I'd like to see, if matches can't be done, certainly an angle. I'd love to see Edge attacked the night on night 1 and the match play out on night 2. and so that Orton already has that advantage going into the match for that slow, vicious beatdown that he'll probably give him. I think that would be really, I think it would be a clever move to try and give you some investment going from night to night on these two WrestleManias. As for the card itself, I mean, I would make some changes, of course. I mean, there's a lot of thrown together matches, but I would not have changed everything. I personally would have not had The Fiend drop the championship. I think I think most people would have said that they wouldn't have had him drop it to Goldberg. I would have had Cena go for the 17th world title. I don't see otherwise what the point of John Cena is being in WWE. What has he got to do apart from have a match? The title is what he should be wanting. So for me, that's what I would have him booking doing. For Roman Reigns, I've got no problem with the match that he would have had against Goldberg, but I'm not saying that's necessarily the route I would have gone down. But other matches I would have continued with. I would have continued with Edge and Orton for definite. I mean, Otis and Ziggler I would have continued with. I'm fine with Taker and AJ Styles as well, if I'm brutally honest. And I'm looking forward to Daniel Bryan, Sami Zayn. And I think that's pretty much of what I'm looking forward to on the card. I think there are some matches there of enjoyment. I do think that I would have had the United States Championship involved in some form of ladder match. That would have been the ladder match for me. I would have involved like Aleister Black, Angel Garza, Buddy Murphy, and all those sort of area superstars that we've seen, like Rey Mysterio and Humberto Carrillo. I know that some of these stars are not advertised currently for WrestleMania, so that would be interesting. I know that the AOP, there's an injury there, so that's probably made the change there. I would have gone for Street Profits, Viking Raiders and AOP in a free team, maybe elimination match for the Raw Tag titles. I was fine with the SmackDown side of things with Miz and Morrison, the Usos and the New Day. I think that kind of would have made sense. I would have had the Women's Tag Team Championships up for grabs. I think I would have had Kabuki Warriors, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross there. May have included Fire and Desire, and I may have included... the rumours were going around that we would have had Natalya and Beth Phoenix. I mean, I would have been fine with that. Even the Iconics, I mean, I think would have been personally fine for this role. I would have liked to have seen Bayley versus Sasha Banks rather than having this way that they're doing it, but it does have a sense of unpredictability in one way. It feels that if Bayley is going to retain the belt, she's got a big job to do it. But I mean, Tamina's clearly not someone I would throw in the match. I would have had Carmella in the spot, perhaps. And maybe I would have had Dana Brooke in there for the 6-woman challenge. But even if it is the Fatal 4-Way, it could have worked without Tamina, in my personal opinion. But Bayley and Sasha would have been a nice long program for them, would have been a good way to go. I'm trying to think if there's any more superstars that I really should be thinking of in match terms and quality. Becky and Shayna Baszler, I think, is something that was right to put together. I'm just not sure of the method of the booking of doing so. And I'm not sure how well the match is actually going to come across to the audience as well, especially with no crowd. I think it's one match that will suffer at WrestleMania personally. I'm fine with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. I mean, that was a prediction I sort of thought was almost like a drop in the ocean. I weren't convinced it was going to happen, but I thought it was one that would make sense with that of the Royal Rumble, and it's come together, so I am sort of fine with that. But I would have added the NXT Championship at this point. I don't see why that could not have been added into the WrestleMania match personally. I would have had Adam Cole involved there. And I probably would have involved Keith Lee, Tommaso Ciampa, and Johnny Gargano, just to get your main people of NXT involved and in like a showcase kind of match. I think that would have been a cool way to go. Next question comes from Noob and Co. With this many WWE talent being injured at home and quarantined, will WrestleMania get postponed? What are your thoughts on Oscar on commentary on Raw last week? And who will be Killer Kross's first feud in NXT if he debuts? Great questions there, but first off, WrestleMania has been pre-recorded. It's taped, it's in the books, it's done. It was recorded on Wednesday and Thursday, so regardless of what has happened, there will be a show next weekend. We will be seeing it, and if my belief is right, the Raw the night after has also been pre-recorded. I'm unsure with the SmackDown, and NXT as well is definitely recorded for the next couple of weeks. So we are definitely guaranteed WWE programming for at least the next 2 to 2.5 weeks. So I don't think on that point anything to fear about at WrestleMania, regardless of what's happened with injuries. I think it's the fact that we have to fear about the health side of things going forward from now, but that's just from a concern standpoint. But apparently WWE claim they've been taking the appropriate measures to make sure that everyone that's been going to work in this environment has been doing it, passing medicals and being safe. So that's something I would like to point out in the video at this point. As far as going commentary, I thought it was entertaining. It did take away from the match, but I do I do enjoy this character side from Asuka. I think that she's got a lot to give, and I hope she continues in the reign that she's got. I do find her character has come out a lot more leaps and bounds in the last 6 months, and she's definitely an interesting character, someone I'm interested in seeing on Raw. She's become someone now who is a title challenger once again. She's a tag team champion. Arguably, Kabuki Warriors have been the best women's tag team champions, in my opinion, at this stage. And I think that if they do Bliss and Kross somewhere down the line, they are the two best teams that have held the belts at this point. I know some will be fans of Bayley and Sasha, but personally, for me, they didn't hold the belts long enough, in my opinion, to declare that as the best so far. They probably had the best moment with the first women's tag team champions when they did that in the Elimination Chamber, but that's probably as far as it goes for their reign for me. As for Killer Kross, it looks like he's going to get involved with Gargano and Ciampa. If we looked at NXT last week, it'd be interesting to see if and where. I did have a conversation with a good friend and somebody that's involved here on SCW, James. He asked me a number of weeks ago, where would you involve him? And this was before Johnny Gargano had actually turned heel on Ciampa, and I said that he should go for the heart and soul of NXT. And it feels ironically that that's what that feud is with Ciampa and Gargano. So it could be interesting to see where it goes. I at the time said Gargano, but right now I would say Tommaso Ciampa. I think Gargano is going to win the feud, and probably rightly will win the feud, especially if it's not leaves NXT. And I think that Ciampa and Killer Kross would be an awesome rivalry, and I would be interested to see how they would book that going forward. Next question comes from Mike, Italian Habs Mike. Obviously, with this COVID-19 potentially going to last months, how will this seriously affect WWE, NXT, AEW, Impact, and New Japan overall? I can see many stars refusing to wrestle. I can as well, and I can also see many shows not being booked. Now, we don't know how long this is going to last for, so we have to be realistic, and if people are all stuck in lockdown, which a lot of people are at the moment, it is going to be difficult to put on the shows for entertainment. A lot of other sports have been cancelled for the foreseeable future, so I can see wrestling is going to go down that alley and that avenue. When you sadly look at like Impact Wrestling, in one way, we had a conversation about this on this channel just a week or two ago, saying how maybe it was an advantage that they had done some tapings already. But you can see with WWE and Impact Wrestling, in a short space of time, when you're booking towards something and that thing you're booking towards has been cancelled or is going to be cancelled, it actually makes it look kind of silly because of the fact that we know it's not going to go ahead, but they've continued telling us that it is. We had Impact Wrestling where things are booking towards lockdown, or lockdown was cancelled. We've had it now for the TNA show, which I believe now is going to be aired at some stage on free TV, which is definitely a bonus. I'm not sure when that was going to be, but we're at least going to get that. But I believe Rebellion as well has been postponed. We've talked about WWE already. It looks like they're covered for a couple of weeks, but of course, with the changes to WrestleMania, it did make SmackDown yesterday kind of feel a bit, what was the point in watching, because they didn't address anything that everybody is already aware of in the room mill. But as for other shows, yeah, I can see it being a bit of a gap where we don't have it. When we first get back where we can do it, will some superstars still have cold feet and reluctant to come back? Depending on their situation, perhaps, and you wouldn't blame them. They've got, they're human beings after all, and we should respect their feelings of not wanting to, put themselves in a place where they feel at risk. And when we talk about someone like Roman Reigns, like I say, it gets full support from me for him to take the break and not do this. I think that, if anything, I'm surprised he was doing this weeks ago. So, I mean, that's, again, like I say, it's a personal point of view, but like I say, health and safety always comes first, and I support anyone that decides to take a break at this time, and that includes the superstars involved. And our next question comes from Headlock Talk Podcast. You're in charge of WWE Creative for one day. What's the first decision you make? Well, I can make about 50. Yeah, we had actually from Select Match Type Podcast actually suggest one idea, which was to postpone WrestleMania. And I think that would be a great shout, but at the same time, you can be thinking that in creative, but Vince McMahon is the person with the ultimate control. You could say that for everything, really, but the one that I would go around and say that I would do personally is creative freedom. I think that that is something that is seriously lacking within WWE right now. I would ditch scripted promos. I would go more based on bullet points, a creative direction of where we want to go, and I would talk to superstars. I would try and get their involvement as much as possible, maybe with the creative direction, where they think that this could go. Get the juices flowing. Where do you want to see this rivalry go yourself? They might be able to throw in good ideas for themselves, something that would match their character, and that I think is a key thing. I mean, also you want to see what are the strengths of a superstar through their character and their weaknesses. Some superstars are not destined to do 15, 20-minute promos, and I don't want to dig people out, but I feel that personally someone like Ricochet would benefit from someone who doesn't do any promo work or have someone to do the talking for him. I think that that is definitely the way to go forward for some superstars. So, I mean, this could spiral into lots of different options, but creative freedom is the thing that I would want. Work to someone's strengths, not to their weaknesses, so that we as viewers see everyone as legit and we can get behind them and not actually think to ourselves, God, that doesn't work and this doesn't fit that character and there's a loophole here. Play to the strengths, and I think superstars have a good idea of what their character wants to do, and they don't necessarily need always bottle feeding what to be told on a promo. You see them on things like WWE Backstage, for example, and they do promo school. They're going to throw out little promos here and there. And a great one, I think, was the Florida Championship Wrestling documentary that was on the WWE Network not so long ago. And you see all the promos that the guys and girls were doing on there, and sometimes they hit gold with something on there. And I think that you could do that, and I think it's been shown with other companies that that's a good way to go. So that's for me is the big thing with WWE Creative is creative freedom, because if, like I say, you work to the strengths, not to the weaknesses, you're going to get more stars eventually. And I think that that's the best way to go forward. As other side projects, I'd love to bring back managers. I mean, you got a couple of valets and managers, but I miss the old days with the people like the Heenan family. You had like Slick and Mr. Fuji, who had multiple different clients. I think that is something that seems to be kind of lacking. I feel there's little hints of it in today's market, but I think that we could really bring it back where it'd be a lot more serious and a lot more entertaining. So that's something also I would like to see. We're going to go for our next question on here right now, and that comes from Carmine Rocco. If you had to narrow it down, what are your top 3 favourite matches of all time? This one got me thinking for a long time. I'm someone that likes all different types of wrestling, whether it's a technical masterclass or a special gimmick match. And I really had a tough time narrowing it down to 3 matches. I'm not going to lie to you. But I did do it eventually, and I'm going to give you the 3 matches now. The third match that I would say probably in third place for me would be the WrestleMania 28. I just absolutely love the Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker, Triple H, Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee. It's my favourite WrestleMania match of all time. At the time, for me, that was like I watched near enough live, didn't have any spoilers. I had not the ability to watch WrestleMania 25 and 26 as they were happening, so I knew the results. So had that been different, maybe those Taker Shawn Michaels matches may have been in there, but they're still great matches. But I just love the storytelling of that WrestleMania Hell in a Cell match. Shawn Michaels deep down wanting to call it down the middle, but wanting Taker to lose, and it'd been a build-up of 4 WrestleManias. So for me, that's a special match, and that comes in my third spot. The second spot would be the TLC match at SummerSlam 2000, the Hardys, the Dudleys, Edge and Christian. First of its kind. I just remember like jumping out of my seat when that match was taking place and watching it for the first time. The nostalgia side of me just absolutely loved that match. So for me, the teenager at that age can't leave that match out. And first for me would be The Undertaker of Mankind, King of the Ring, 1998. Now I know it's all gimmick matches I've chosen here, but I mean the spectacle of that match alone. Yes, it's not a technical masterclass. We're not going to look back in 15, 20 years and say, goodness, the wrist locks and the headlocks and stuff like that with this match. But I mean, Mick Foley gave his life that night. He was thrown off the Hell in a Cell, and then he was thrown chokeslammed through the Hell in a Cell. It was chilling moments, and I genuinely feared for the guy's health. And I'm sure that he, suffered a bit from doing those things, and I have massive respect for him for doing it. So, that for me is probably going to be the one. But there were a lot of great technical masterclass matches. I could be here all day telling you the best matches ever, but you asked me to pick 3, and those are the 3 I'm going to pick for you today. Our next question comes from Jay Gabriel. Which era of NXT would you consider your favourite? Amazing question. I really, I mean, every era of NXT is amazing. I've been watching the NXT since the inception of it at the start, where people were doing the barrel running challenges and stuff like that. I mean, I did enjoy the first season of that NXT, but as we have the NXT of what we know now, following it from 2012 when Seth Rollins became the first NXT champion all the way through to now, I really enjoyed 2012. I really enjoyed 2014 to 15 when we first got the likes of like Sami Zayn, Neville, Kevin Owens. Finn Balor, Hideo Itami, all involved in that era. For me, it was a really exciting period. But my favourite period is actually around the time of Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. That heel turn and that next sort of 12 to 18 months where we had like Andrade as the champion and, Undisputed Era coming in. For me, it just was such a special period. Aleister Black debuting as well. So, I mean, I think for me, my favourite period would be the 2018 period. The first 6 months of 2018 was probably my favourite period of NXT. I do to this day believe that Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano is the best storyline in NXT history and probably one of the best written storylines in wrestling over the last decade with ease. Our last question this week comes from Ty at World Order 2. What should Impact do with Moose now that the TNA Throwback Show and Mania Weekend is cancelled? He should be done beating on TNA talents now, so does he move into the Impact World title picture and feud with Elgin after he inevitably wins at Redemption? Well, Redemption also seems to have hit the weighted side from what I've read in reports. Now, I don't know how fully true, I could be wrong on that, but I believe it's been cancelled as well. I didn't actually have Elgin winning the belt on that show at this point either, as it was a triple threat. I thought Tessa was going to get through another show beating Eddie Edwards, and then it would be Elgin afterwards. But for the sakes of the question, I do think Elgin ultimately will become the Impact World Champion within the next few months of when we get rolling again of doing these Impact shows once again. And yeah, I agree with you, Moose. It's time for him to go into the main event scene. I've enjoyed watching his heel work over the last couple of years. I think it's been very entertaining. I've loved watching him as the multi-sport man. I've enjoyed watching, fighting the legends and stuff like that. Now he's done the TNA Bros. But it's time for a change. And sometimes when you find this character, it works so well as a heel, after a while it can become stale if you don't do something more with it. And I think that this character, even though it's kind of a cocky heel, I think that you can transition it and tweak it and turn him back to babyface. I think that timing is right because we don't really have a top babyface now within Impact Wrestling. He's Mr. Impact Wrestling. I would like to see, I think the timing is right for him to change back to babyface, change a few tweak bits. He can still be outlandish with his suits and stuff, kind of like Ric Flair was when he flitted between being heel and face. That kind of character I'm kind of going with a vibe on here for Moose. And I think him and Elgin could have some great matches. And yeah, I think that the world title picture is something he should be looking at because the X Division's got so many talents down there. Doesn't really need to be involved with that. The world title picture is the place for him. And I don't think there's anyone now that really truly stands in his way. I think once Tessa Blanchard goes back to being involved with the Knockouts division, Elgin's going to need some superstars to face. And I think Moose would be a top contender. But that's all from me anyway here on Ask SCW. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Like I say, make sure to check out all the other content on the channel as well. And there will be content coming up. WrestleMania predictions on Tuesday will be posted. And of course, there will be WrestleMania 15 for SCW Rewind will be posted on Thursday. So plenty to look forward to on the channel over the next week. And I'll be back with Ask SCW after WrestleMania, so we can get the fallout from that show on here on this platform. So I look forward to doing that with you guys. And yeah, like I say, thank you for your questions as always. If you want to throw a question in the meantime, you still can do. Just drop it in the comments of this and leave the hashtag AskSCW. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time here on YouTube.com. This is SCW, the wrestling channel with Ask SCW. Take care.